Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with the Raw Life Health Show, and today is Friday, and you know what Friday is. It's Friday's Q&A, and we're going to do something a little different today. I'm going to answer one or two questions I got this week, but then I'm going to go, I did a Q&A last night at my lecture here in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to put some of those clips in as well. And there were a couple of funny things, people had some funny comments, so we're going to put those in. Now, tomorrow, Saturday night, I'm going to be in Painesville, Ohio, which is near Cleveland. And then I'm going to be in the Cleveland area the rest of the week. And then on Tuesday, I'm coming back to Pittsburgh. So check that out on my page on paulneesons.com. Now, the first question I get is from Claudiate from YouTube. And she asks, she says that she's asked me how many meals I eat throughout the day and how often do I eat, because she's been trying to do the daylight diet, but she's been listening to her body and eating whenever she thinks she's hungry, but she finds it hard to get the proper amount of calories that she needs. And well, you know, I don't recommend, everyone that knows this knows I don't recommend just eating when your body tells you you're hungry, because we have true hunger and we have false hunger, or habit hunger. And most people, if you listen to what your body says, you're listening to habit hunger. For example, if you've eaten all day but you're used to eating at nighttime, you're still going to be in the mood for food at nighttime. That's a habit hunger. It's not a true hunger. We don't even need to eat every day if we're eating healthy. So when we eat healthy, we just need to eat a small amount of foods and not too often. But we have to get the habit of not eating often and not eating at certain times. That's what the daylight diet is all about. It's getting out of the habit of eating when it's dark outside. As of you're concerned about getting your calories, well, I never recommend counting calories. The calorie theory is a theory that started in the late 80s, where people started counting calories of the foods they were eating and so on. The reason I don't recommend counting calories is for two reasons. Number one, calories are different in every type of food or every variety of food. But the other reason is, depending on how clean or toxic the body is, it's going to do something different with the same amount of calories. So somebody that's very cleaned out and has been eating a healthy diet for a very long time can do much more by eating much less calories, and they could feel fine. However, somebody that's used to eating a lot of calories and eating often, if they cut down the amount of calories immediately or overnight, they're not going to feel as good. So it depends. The quality of the calories, the type of food where they're coming from, and also the condition of your body. So those are just two of the many other factors, so it can get really confusing. You don't have to count calories. What you have to do is monitor your sleep. What you have to do is monitor your digestion. What you have to do is monitor your blood work. And then finally, after those things, monitor how you feel. But if you're just into counting calories and just trying to pump yourself up with calories, there's many ways to do that with so-called cheap calories or cheap food. And that's what we want to avoid. Now, another question was from Joan TC5 on YouTube, and she says she has a question about gluten. I'm always telling everyone how bad gluten is for the body. It's actually glue in the body. Yes, wheat is not healthy for the body because it's wheat gluten. However, she was asking me about sprouts. She says when foods are sprouted, do they still contain gluten? Well, a great example is wheat berries. Wheat berries obviously have wheat in them, and when they're not sprouted, they have gluten in them. But when they are sprouted and grown into a green leaf like wheatgrass, there's no gluten in wheatgrass. So if anyone out there is suffering from celiac disease or anything like that, you don't have to worry about the gluten intolerance to that. Also, sprouted grains, like, again, we'll use wheat berries as an example. Once it's sprouted, it still has a very small amount of gluten in it, but nowhere near as the amount it would if it wasn't sprouted. So if you're going to do grains, it's best to sprout them first, no matter what type of grains. Now, I tell people to be careful with things like with rice, especially white rice, but all rice in general, because it's so popular today, but it's not easy to digest. It's acidic to the body. The ideal foods to eat if you're going to eat grains is millet and quinoa. I'm probably pronouncing that last one wrong, but I'm from New York, so it's okay. Millet and quinoa are somewhat okay. You know, soak them overnight before you go ahead and you eat them. And besides that, you know, just eat the other grains sparingly, if at all, and you'll be fine. Make sure the majority of your diet is raw fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. If you have to cook the grains, but still sprout them first. But you can't eat them raw if you sprout them. Wild rice is another grain that you can eat raw and sprouted. It's fine. So that's that answer there. So now what we're going to do is we're going to look at some comments, some questions from we had from last night's lecture, and I'm going to answer them. One of them was about a topic I spoke about this past week, was about milk, because somebody asked me what my opinion of dairy was. And then we had one or two characters that were at the lecture last night who had some pretty comical things to say. So we're going to get to those. The question was about raw milk and raw eggs. What's my opinion about those? And I can tell you that when I was diagnosed with inflammatory bowel disease, one of the two major causes of my illness was dairy products. The other one was wheat products. The wheat gluten is so bad for our bodies, and we shouldn't be using wheat gluten. The other problem was dairy products. There's a direct connection between inflammation of the body of anywhere and dairy products. So I was told, I wasn't even told, I figured out on my own how bad dairy products was for my condition, eliminated the dairy products, and my condition healed. And for 15 years I was on a raw vegan diet, 100%, and I had no issues with my condition. And then as I started to look into blood tests and blood work, and I started to look at the soil that's so depleted from the fruits and vegetables, and we're not getting enough minerals out of the fruits and vegetables as we should be getting all the time, we need to expand the variety of what we eat. And somebody presented to me that dairy products were very healthy. Well, everything I want to learn about health and everything in life comes from the Bible. And in the Bible it says the land of milk and honey. And I said, well, wait a second, there seems to be an issue here, because of how could milk, which is dairy, be unhealthy, but the Bible says it's okay. And that's when I found that once again, man had to tamper with this. And when man started to drug up that milk and process that milk and get that milk that shouldn't be in our body and put it in the store, that's what caused my issue. But if you can get raw, organic, fresh goat milk or sheep milk, that's very healthy for the body and okay. Now, cow's milk is a different story. The milk of a cow is made for a baby calf that grows to be 800 pounds. So the milk is structured that way. The milk of a goat or a sheep is almost identical to the milk of a human mother's milk, and it's much more easier for the body to process and utilize. So I'm a big fan of the sheep or goat's milk in a raw form if somebody chooses to do that. Now, many people, don't really have the education behind it, and Pennsylvania here is one of the only states that allows it to be sold legally in a raw state. It's illegal to get healthy milk, but you can go in the store and buy this drug cocktail in just about any sort of state in the country, and that's how backwards our government is and everything they do. So I think it's very important. Now, as eggs, the same thing. One of the greatest resources that we've been using for thousands of years has been eggs as our food. But when we cook it and fry it, it becomes a suicide vehicle, just to speed up our death. But when we take that egg raw, and if it's not from a factory farm, if it's from a local farm, and use it that way, we take something fresh like grapes and make it into something unhealthy like wine. And the same thing, we take something like fresh milk and we make it unhealthy by putting all these drugs in it. And this is just the way they think, because they're making money off of these things, because we get sick from these things. If cooked foods are bad as people say they were, none of us would be here. Cooked foods are not ideal in every situation, but certainly cooked food is not killing people. What's killing people is all the other things we've been discussing here. How much, how often, how late we eat that food, the drugs in the foods we do eat. The majority of our diet should be raw fruits, vegetables, raw, ripe, fresh, and organic fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. A little cooked food is fine, and if a person chooses to, you don't have to, but if you choose to, you can have your animal products and be okay. You do it the opposite way that people do it today, and then you run up like the world. If you eat a food and it doesn't make you feel well, don't eat it. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean it was the food. You try another time, and every time you eat it, it doesn't make you feel well, don't eat it. What's your name?
I'm John Garber.
John, you just saw me do a lecture, right? And you have a very important question for me, right?
Yeah, it is. Are you Amish with that beard, or are you Arabic?
Do you think possibly I look a little Jewish?
Well, possibly. That isn't so far from Arabic.
Is that a consideration?
Yes.
Good. Yeah.
Very good.
Good. Thank you very much. Okay. So everyone, get your questions in this week, so next week we can post them on our health show, and check out all the other episodes of the Raw Life Health Show. Until then, if you're in the Ohio area, come check me out.
Nature's wealth, good for your health. This is the Raw Life Health Show. Raw Life.